administrators or as faculty to these students that impacted their experiences in the classroom and their retention and so forth. So as a school, we made a commitment several years ago to focus more on issues of race and ethnicity as they manifested in terms of our admissions, our co-curricular activities, as well as classroom dynamics. Early in the process, several years now, we held a faculty retreat, and we used a qualitative study by one of our faculty members, Dr. Caroline Daniel, some of you may know her work, who did a qualitative study of Latino graduate students and African American students. And some of the work she wrote about really became the springboard of that retreat. Participants of her study expressed difficulty connecting to white faculty, often viewing them with mistrust and suspicion. It also was reported it was difficult for them to discuss with white faculty members problems they were encountering in the classroom. To them, asking questions and expressing concerns they feared was proof positive evidence that they didn't belong in graduate school, that they were imposters due to what would be perceived as inadequate preparation and might negatively affect their grades. So in fact, they went underground. They didn't really come to the professors to ask for help, to ask questions and so forth. So that became the springboard of that retreat, which was a powerful experience for all of us. We felt if we were going to tackle these issues, the first thing we needed to do was to self-reflect ourselves. So we spent a while talking about Dr. Daniel's study, how it impacted our school, and what we could do as faculty members to be responsive to a diverse population of our students. The discussion shifted to the victimization of a good number of our faculty and administrators of color who had been subjected to the acts of discrimination either in the classroom, the school's hallways, or the universities. It wasn't just faculty of color, but also because of their religion, sexual orientation, or because of a disability. And as participants, it was very powerful as we bore witness and processed the meaning of these experiences as a group. And we realized it was really important for us to not just talk about ourselves, but to use this as a jumping board to be more responsive to our students and the whole school community as well. So from that retreat, we decided to form a diversity committee. A lot of schools do that. We decided to take this seriously and to systematically explore these issues within the school and began to make some changes. The first thing faculty and administrators did, which was symbolic, was to develop a decal that read, "Diversity spoken is here," and we displayed it on the faculty and administrators' doors as a signal, part of a communication, that their doors were open to students and the school's general willingness and commitment to support for diverse student body and to provide an atmosphere of unqualified acceptance and support. We felt it was really important to change the surroundings as part of that communication. We also decided it was important to celebrate and sponsor events related to diversity. This month, September 15th, October 15th, is Hispanic Heritage Month, which we're celebrating at the school. And also it was important to bring in community agencies to the school to talk about topics that are impacting. One is very big on Long Island, is the immigration and the implications of social work workforce. There were a variety of different topics and things that we hosted and really invited the community to come in to talk about those issues. Students also felt it was important to form a Latino Student Association, which met on a monthly basis, it still does, where students have an opportunity to build peer support. They thought that was really important, and to create a quote-unquote safe space where they talk about their experiences of differences in the classroom and in the field among themselves, and to advocate to the school about some of the issues that they're facing. We also thought it was important to reach out to non-traditional students, including Latinos and other students of color, to make them aware of the academic support systems. Many of these students, as we heard by one of the panelists previously, are first generation going to college, often first going on to graduate school, and they are less familiar with navigating academics, and also less facile and standardized tests. I know Sheldon's going to talk in a few minutes about licensing, so that became a very big issue in our school. It was less easy for students for them to take the licensing exam than their white counterparts who were more comfortable and ease in taking these kinds of exams. It was important to go to the university and ask for more resource. For models of people of color, we hired a Latina, and a person of color to work with students to provide additional support. A lot of our non-traditional students are coming to graduate school and having difficulty not only navigating academics, but balancing work and family life. And they weren't looking for psychotherapy or looking in their inner world. They really wanted some help and support about how to balance work and family life, and really felt it was important that be done within the school and not going to a mental health center, so we began to provide that as well. Students and faculty also developed a diversity dialogue series, which we hold each month, and we've reflected on such topics as exploring the meaning of diversity and culture for social work students and the skills needed to become culturally sensitive. Native American history was talked about, what we don't know, what we know, and recently the status of U.S. immigration policy and its implication on social work practice. We also thought it was important for the faculty in our discussions that when we did searches that we began to hire more faculty of color. Because research shows us that it's very important for mentors or leaders to be of the same racial ethnic background. So in the past 5 years, we've hired 11 new faculty, 7 of whom are people of color, including a Latina, and our new ESW is a Latino. So I think that's going to help make a difference as well. We also are developing a program right now with our ESW director, which is reaching out to high school students in underserved communities. And around the Garden City area, we're really talking about a Latino population, and offering a 2-week summer camp, so to speak, where they come in and we want to inspire young Latinos about the social work profession, and also have them come back in their senior year to work on community projects with faculty and to begin to take some academic courses as ways of familiarizing them more with academics. So to conclude, because we have a lot of other people speaking today, we've only just begun. That's a Conqueror song, some of you know that. I feel like we've learned a lot. It's only the beginning. And as a faculty, we understand that these are long-standing roots and ongoing manifestations. And going forward, our hope is really to promote an environment in which all voices are heard and deepen our understanding across our school community. And as a dean, as a white male, I can tell you I have learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot from my faculty, from our students, and there is a firm commitment of the Tail Club to move us along in this direction, and I thank you very much.
I'm going to try to approach this topic from 2 standpoints. And this is probably the topic that is going to raise the most concerns by the time the entire panel is finished. To begin with, one of the primary goals of the Social Work Task Force has been to create pathways and access for Latino individuals to professional education. That's what the scholarship program is about. That's what all of our fundraising has been about. And it becomes very important to recognize that access to educate, to professional education, and completion of an MSW program does not provide one with the capacity or the ability to practice. Practice requires a license. And one of my biggest disappointments in more than 40 years of academic teaching and administration is what we had worked so hard for and what we actually got. The licensing bill that we worked so hard for here in New York is a disaster particularly for minority students, minority graduates. One of the things that one learns as in the policy world is that you should attempt to anticipate the unanticipated consequences of policy initiatives. And we got hit with a whole bunch of unanticipated consequences. Not the least of which is the Corporate Practices Act that nobody in more than 10 years of discussion about licensing had paid any attention to at all. And those of you who are agency administrators know the process that you've gone through in terms of trying to meet that piece that is not what we thought we were getting in licensure, but was a remnant of things that control the way organizations are incorporated and the purpose to which they can devote their activities. One of the things that we have learned about licensing is that it revolves around the passing of an exam. An exam that is created by ASWB. It is a national exam. It proclaims that it is going to measure social work skills, knowledge, and practice abilities. But what it actually measures is one's ability to take an exam that is designed to trick and to confuse the exam taker. If English is not your first language, you are an excellent candidate to be even more confused than anyone else is. The schools have tried to address this on a regular basis since the passage of the legislation. And it becomes very difficult because ASWB does not share with the schools anything other than their pass rate. We do not know anything about the test taker except whether this is the first time they've taken the test or if it's more than one time that they've taken the test. We don't know if they've taken it 2, 4, 8, 11, or 15 times and not been successful in passing. We have no idea about the racial or ethnic composition of those who pass and those who fail. So that much of our information and much of our efforts have been devoted or have emerged from anecdotal information about who passes and who doesn't, and that comes from each of the schools. If you did very well on your college boards, the likelihood is you will probably do fairly well on the licensing exam. If you took GREs and you did very well, you will no doubt do very well on the exam. The only difference between the GREs and the social work exam is that the social work exam has questions related to social work. And they have questions related to research, to policy, to human behavior, to practice skills, and there is a good deal of information about Medicare and Medicaid. Not something that many students in school spend a great deal of time learning about. So the questions are there. They're all multiple choice. There are 4 exams. There are 4 questions. And at least 3 of them look like they could be the correct answer. So to prepare for taking the exam, you've got to get your head on straight. You can't cram for it. It doesn't make a great deal of sense to reread all of your notes that you've accumulated over 2 years, or to reread all of your textbooks. It's more how you dissect the question and use common sense And you have to be very careful not to second guess what your gut reaction is. If something looks right, it probably is. If you allow the element of doubt to creep in, more than likely you will be confused. And if you start changing your answers, you're going to find out that you did poorly. So much of what the schools have to do is really prepare people to take on a task that goes beyond papers that you wrote, the exams that you may have taken, or the presentations that you gave to your classmates, to your instructors. And you've got to pass it. You should take it as quickly as you can after you graduate. The further you are from graduation, the poorer your score will be. And you have to really analyze each question. And you can obviously, it's always easy to eliminate the fourth question, or the fourth choice. You might even be able to eliminate one more. And it generally comes down to two questions that you think I could be better off if I flip the coin. But if you take the questions apart and see if something doesn't fit with something that you've learned, that's more than likely the question that you should eliminate, or the response that you should eliminate. But it's almost playing a game. There are some other impacts, and that is the cost of the exam. It's not inexpensive. And if you don't pass it the first time, then you've got to pay for the second or third or fourth or fifth time, you get into big dollars.